I've raised the issue of the pain clinic at Sligo University Hospital with you and the Minister for Health 3 times back in 2022 when there were 2 service interruptions to the pain clinic, and previously, of course, when it was closed during COVID. Now, those issues were resolved and the service resumed. However, just over 4 weeks ago, I received some information that there might be a reduction in service in the pain clinic, and perhaps there'd be fewer consultants there. So I put down 3 questions to the Minister seeking information about the number of consultants, possible reduction in service, etc. Needless to say, I have still got no reply. But this week, the news broke on a local media that the pain clinic is to close tomorrow. Now, since then, CELTA have come back to say that it's a temporary closure, and while I welcome that, I will come back to it in a moment. But when I put down those 3 questions, I put down another one to ask how the Minister would alleviate the waiting lists, the backlog of people waiting to access the pain clinic in the first place. And I did receive a response on that to tell me there were 341 patients on the SUH outpatient list and 107 on the inpatient. So, Taoiseach, before there was any talk of closure, we're looking at 448 people on a waiting list, as well as all of those accessing the service. And many patients are really concerned at the closure, even temporary, because the service for them is literally their lifeline. As you know, chronic pain is often invisible and people feel very isolated. It takes on average about 4 years to get a diagnosis from when you go to see your GP to when you get to see a consultant, and then you're on a waiting list. And to think that the service that you rely on, and you can't go anywhere else, that service would be pulled. So, Taoiseach, I have a few questions to ask you. First of all, what are the alternative arrangements for those currently accessing the service? Will they be able to see their current consultant? Has a changeover of information, all of that, has that been sorted? Secondly, what's going to happen to those on the waiting list? Have they received any communication about what is going to happen next and where do they go? My third question is, why didn't CELTA ensure a continuum of service? They had to know that some of these consultants were departing. They tell us that they're recruiting consultants at the moment, but we know that recruitment can take 6, 12, 18 months.
Thank you, Deputy.
While we're told it's temporary, Taoiseach, people have seen this pain clinic closed before, they've waited and they've waited. And once again, no notice to patients,
Deputy,
nothing,
please.
and people just are not interested in hearing about we're in the process of recruiting.
Thank the Deputy for raising this issue. I think chronic pain is a devastating condition for people because it's long term. And it's one that thankfully there's been significant development over the last decade or so, but it took a long time to, if you like, get a proper base within our health service more generally. But and the reason for the temporary closure of this service is that the 2 consultant doctors providing the chronic pain service in Sligo, as you have said, University Hospital are both moving to new roles. The HSE advises that recruitment to fill these posts is ongoing and everything is being done to minimise impact on patients. And just to stress, the refilling of these posts is not impacted at all by any recruitment pause or anything like that. As an interim measure, and until the new consultants are in post, alternative arrangements are being put in place for patients who are currently attending the service. And these arrangements include appointments being offered in Kingsbridge, Sligo for procedures, and exploring outsourcing with the National Treatment Purchase Fund. A locum consultant will commence in July to oversee the governance of the pain management and education and a psychologically based rehabilitative treatment for people with persistent pain. And we will continue to invest in Sligo University Hospital, and we're committed to it. Staffing at the hospital has grown by about 379 since January 2020 from 1,677 to 2,056 in January. That's a 22.5% increase in the staffing in the hospital. And since 2022, this includes 50 more nurses and midwives, 33 more medical and dental staff, and 5 more patient care staff, as well as 13 more health and social care professionals. The budget's gone from about 159 million back in 2020 to 187 million, which is a 17% increase, a 28 million increase in just 4 years. And 27 new beds have opened and so forth. And in terms of the National Treatment Purchase Fund, it has advised the Department of Health that three pain relief insourcing initiatives have been approved for the sale to hospital group, 2 OPD and 1 IPDC, which will facilitate treatment for 580 patients on pain relief waiting lists. Now, there are about 341 on the Sligo University Hospital outpatient pain relief waiting lists, and about 78% are waiting 6 months or less. And there's about 107 patients on the Sligo University Hospital inpatient day case pain relief waiting lists, and about 61% of them are waiting 6 months or less. Now, I do take your point that, and I'm not aware of the background as to why the 2 consultants essentially seem to have left at the same time or moved on to different portfolios, as to whether that was anticipated or expected. I think it's a reasonable point you make that it should have been anticipated, and maybe recruitment could have begun earlier to coincide with consultants leaving.
Thank you, Taoiseach. Deputy Hartman.
Thank you, Taoiseach. And you did say progress had been made, and some progress has. But Taoiseach, you may or may not be aware, there's been a change in the international classification of diseases on chronic pain. We've gone from what they call ICD-10 to ICD-11, where chronic pain is now recognised as a disease in its own right, as distinct from a symptom of another disease. And I know that our response in Ireland has to be to put in place a pilot programme, but that's all we've done. If you look at other countries worldwide, while you say we've made progress, Ireland is not a good place for those who suffer from chronic pain. And I really think it needs to move to the top of the agenda, because you're telling me that CELTA have various initiatives, they're looking to recruit consultants, they've approved this, they've approved that, but I can tell you that patients in chronic pain in Sligo, Leitrim, Donegal, because it covers that entire area, wait long times to get access to a clinic. There have been many stoppages in the service, and now, with no notice, it's gone. Yes, they're promised the closure is temporary. I want an absolute guarantee that that's the case.
Thank you, Deputy. The time is up now, please.
Deputy, as I said earlier, the locum will be appointed in July. Arrangements include, for those, in terms of alternative arrangements, for appointments being offered in Kingsbridge, and then the NTPF is also has a number of schemes for the CELTA group that should also help in terms of providing treatment to people. I don't disagree with your fundamental point about the importance of pain management, and as you say, it's a disease in itself now, but it has very significant implications for patients, those who have persistent pain or chronic pain. It hasn't, over the last decade or so, from where it was, very embryonic service, it I think has improved significantly. It's very unfortunate that 2 would leave at the one time. And I think every effort must be made to accelerate the recruitment of permanent replacements for those 2 consultants who have left. In the meantime, we've got to use the locum system and also the NTPF and funding for the NTPF.